When I was a kid, I went to the library with my mom one time and I found a volume issue of Ultimate Spider-Man. I think I was 14. I thought it was so cool. The art style, the characters, the villains. I used to watch the Spider-Man TV show when I was a kid, when I was a little bit younger, maybe around 8 or 10, and it was the old school TV show, like the old one, like where the meme where all the Spider-Man guys are pointing at each other. That show, where Electro has this mask that looks kind of silly. It's like stars coming out of his face. So I like Spider-Man. I thought Spider-Man was cool. You know, I'd watched the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man with the really cool Green Goblin in there. And so when I saw the like actual comic, Ultimate Spider-Man, I was just over the moon. I'm like, we got to borrow this book from the library. I was going home with it that day and read it. I read it so fast. I loved it. It was so cool. It was my first comic book. And I remember like I couldn't wait to go back to the library to get the next issue. And the first issue I read wasn't even the first one. It was like somewhere in the middle of the story. And so I was trying to collect all the issues so I could get the whole story and trying to piece it together like this puzzle. And then I remember at a certain point, I was looking for more issues at the library, and I had asked the librarian, do you have like the more recent issues? And I think she said they didn't. I can't remember if it was because they were still printing the comic at the time. It was still being written and made. But I remember being super bummed about that because I'm like, oh, I want more Ultimate Spider-Man. But then they made a video game. And the first time I played Ultimate Spider-Man on the video game was on my Nintendo DS. It was like not quite like this one you're seeing here, like with the 3D. Like it was like a mix of 3D, 2D. It was a really great game in its own right. And I loved it. And it was awesome. But I'd always wanted to play the PS2 or GameCube version because it was like the actual 3D world that you can move around in the 3D space. Both games are great. At least they were for the time they came out in. Coming back now and playing Ultimate Spider-Man now, feeling the controls feel pretty good. But there's a few little janky things about this game that it has shown its age a little bit when you're playing it now. A little bit from the voice acting of Peter Parker, which is not the best voice acting. Let me tell you, listening to it back as an adult, but you know, it still has that comic book charm, which I thought was so cool. Ultimate Spider-Man actually is one of the coolest Spider-Man comics I've ever read. It is actually the only Spider-Man comic I have read. I think there's quite a few Spider-Man comics. I would read more Spider-Man comics. And I don't know like how popular Ultimate Spider-Man is in relation to other Spider-Man comics, but man, it was just such a great time as a kid in the oddies, reading those comics, playing this game. As an adult, I went to I found out that Brian Michael Bendis, who was the author of the comic, was creating a collectible series of omnibuses. And so for the past 3 or 4 years, I have been collecting each omnibus as it would come out. I finally have all 5 of them, which was rather expensive to collect. I didn't realize how much comics were until I started buying them myself as an adult. And you know, I'm glad I own it now. And I bought them and I read through all of them, and it was an absolute blast doing that because I got to read from very beginning of the story to the very end. I got to get all of the content I missed and all the stuff that concluded the story. And reading that was so badass. And I think reading this comic is what also made me get more interested in like the Avengers and the other like comic book superheroes that Marvel came up with later, like in the 2010s and late 2020s, or actually not late 2020s, early 2020s. I remember when Avengers first came out, the first Avengers, like everyone was so hyped about that movie. And I was just kind of like, it's okay. Spider-Man's not in it. Like, you know, like all I cared about was Spider-Man being in like the Marvel universe. He's always been my favorite superhero because I just grew up with him as a kid, as many other people have as well. And watching like the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, now Tom Holland. I love all the movies still. Like they're fantastic. Seeing all of them together was also such a treat. That was a massive spoiler, by the way, if you haven't seen all the Spider-Man movies, especially the new ones. But seeing like the first two with Tobey Maguire was just an absolute blast. I loved it. It was so great. But Ultimate Spider-Man, like, man, I'm so happy I got to enjoy this as a kid. Like it was one of the coolest comic book culture things I got to experience when I was in my teens. And I remember talking about this game with other friends I had. Like we talked about how like it was just fun to just go web swinging around the city, and like you didn't even have to go beat up bad guys. You could just swing around, climb buildings, and that alone was super fun. And now I know the new Spider-Man games are way better in terms of like the controls and the feel and like everything about them. I haven't played them yet. And partially now that's just kind of because I don't have as much time as an adult. Just sit and play video games, even though this whole channel is about video games or has video games on it. I still love video games as a hobby, and I probably will play them for as long as I live. I really enjoy them. They're just kind of an awesome part of life in a way. You get to jump into this world and you get to be some person or character that you wouldn't never been able to do in real life. And that fantasy is pretty fun, you know? And I think Spider-Man is cool in that way because it's almost like he's flying, you know, like he's moving around the city effortlessly. And yeah, it was just fun. It was a fun time as a kid. I'm really grateful I got to have that experience. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to share, even though Ultimate Spider-Man now is showing a little bit of age. If you haven't read the comics, I still think they're totally worth it. I just read them recently and I really liked them. I've also read Invincible. Invincible's great. I love Invincible. And I think that's the closest comic I could compare it to, even though Invincible is much more violent than Spider-Man. But yeah, it's if you dig the art style at all and you think the art style looks cool, it's worth the read. It was a lot of fun, and Brian Michael Bendis did a really good story. So yeah, this is my little thank you to that time period I got to enjoy.